As you all know, my name is Baywatch and I love making the outdoor day programs. Since we're not able to meet with you guys, I agreed to make little awesome training videos that are going to be fairly short. You just got to watch it so you have some kind of gist of what you're doing with your group. So I'm going to be going over the unit 4 and 5, which are the juniors. I know last year we did have issues with kind of girls overlapping at certain stations. So that's why it's pretty important to keep track of the time. So one of the PAs should be assigned at the very beginning of who is going to be that time tracker, okay? The timekeeper. All right, and just helping your group move along and be where they need to be and leave that area when you need to leave. So now what you're going to do in this area is you're just going to spend about 10 minutes and we're going to talk about the 7 principles of Leave No Trace, because eventually they're going to go and help some daisies with their project too. So you're just refreshing on these. I will have signs and you guys are just kind of discussing, and then as you're talking about one, you can kind of get them to say examples of how you do that step or that principle. All right, so the next activity, you guys are shifting up to the farmhouse field because the farmhouse sadly is gone, but there's a huge open field there. I know that there is one picnic bench, so if you do need to sit, there's only one for, I think it was 9 juniors. This is when they're gonna start working with those daisies with the Leave No Trace. So their project is to paint each one like a picture of what it represents. Okay, so there's 7. There's gonna be 9 daisies and 10 juniors, so they'll all kind of group up. I may have some girls paint something a little extra because if we have these groups, there's obviously gonna be some that are left out. So we'll figure out something else for them to do. So when you guys are done helping the daisies, you're gonna go out to the play yard, which you were already there, so you're kind of just transitioning back. And this area is actually, if you're looking at the map, the play yard, you're gonna be kind of on that south side because there's actually a walkway that goes to the silo and they've cleared all that out. So this is a really good spot. And you guys are gonna talk about spotting natural habitat in your campsite. So this is gonna be a mock campsite. We can actually have some camp chairs out there, stuff like that. Maybe a tent, I don't know yet. So what you're gonna do is you guys have paper, you're gonna fold it into 4. So that means folding it in half and then folding it again. So then when you open it, you have the 4 squares. So last year we did do something similar. So you can put insects, plants, mammals, amphibians. So each one of those, you guys are gonna designate a category that they can talk about. So insects, what kind of insects are we gonna see out here? So there's obviously spiders. So what you do is you're gonna have to make a discussion for each category, and then they're writing down what they know, okay? Like, we know that there might be some ants. We know there might be some spiders. So then after they're all done, I would take about 5 minutes to maybe get a good list. They've got to at least have 2 in each category, just kind of encourage that. And then you're going to kind of walk around that area and see what you can find that they have in their list. So they'll take their pencil or marker and they're gonna cross off each one of those. So it kind of helps them reflect of like, wow, I already kind of know what's out here. So it's like the connection of just feeling a little knowledgeable about your environment. So when you're done with that activity, you do have 15 minutes to do it. So like I said, you're gonna take 5 minutes to come up with their list and then 10 minutes to walk around. You don't wanna get too far from this area because you guys are gonna set up, but you can go all the way up to like kind of walking up towards the farmhouse, but not quite there, and just kind of walk around, okay, as a group. All right, so then this is a pretty big project you guys are gonna work on. So I'm giving you 25 minutes for this. So as the badge requirement, like I said, I underlined it, set up a campsite kitchen and a wash area. So there's gonna be a ton of camping equipment there. I think it'd be fun if we put like a 2-person tent there and they can build that. These are juniors, so they're gonna have pretty much a lot of experience camping. You're gonna secure the dunk line. That is one of the requirements. So you're gonna have 2 different dunk lines, I think, because then it gives a chance for everybody. Or you do it, each girl, and then they take it down and do it again. So you're gonna be using the clove hitch on a tree, okay? It's gonna be tight, then you go to the other tree. You probably want a tree that's maybe like that big, nothing something massive because it'll take too much of the rope. But the rope needs to be long enough so that, let's say, 10 girls are able to hang their mesh kits. And then you're gonna teach them how to hang the mesh kits. So, you know, it's hanging, and Pearl told me that it's called the lark's head, and I've never heard that before. So basically you have it, you put it around it, and then you slip the item through the hole, right? So you have the, you have the string, but it's tied together, so it's going there. And then in that hole, you're gonna be putting the item in. I think you guys know, you've done it before. Okay, and then we aren't gonna have water out there, but we are gonna have the tubs. And so as you know, there's 3. So another thing that they can do if there's extra time, because this is not a badge requirement, I'm gonna have about 4 sleeping bags out there, and every time I camp with my campers, every time I camp with my troop, a lot of them didn't know how to roll a sleeping bag. That's a simple skill, so when you're asking them to clean up, they're like, can you roll my bag? Can you roll my bag? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm dealing with this. So if the girls learn how to roll a sleeping bag, it's a huge help. It makes them feel independent too. So you're gonna take it, fold it in half, make it as tight as you can, and then when you get to the end, you're gonna put the straps around it. Bam, you're done. And if it has like a little bag or a cover, you're gonna put it in there. All right, and another badge requirement is singing outdoors. My gosh, that's gonna be super simple. So as maybe they're setting up, you could maybe start singing a repeat after me so that it's kind of mindless and they're just kind of setting up and singing, or a, you know, some sort of working song. So again, I don't really care what song you guys do, that's your choice. But one of the badge requirements is sing outdoors, so that's pretty simple. So at this time, they're gonna be making some trail mix. And last year I had signs of like, what are carbs, what is protein, and so there's gonna be a list of items. You guys are probably gonna have about half of them. So they're gonna make, well, you made your little cooking area, so this is how you're gonna have your trail mix, is out like that. And you can discuss how each one of those items in the trail mix help your body keep going to get to the end. All right, so the next activity is actually gonna be at the silo, okay? Because you're gonna explore the structure. I will have a little bit of information on the history and everything, and you wanna basically talk about big structures. How are they built to withstand this weather? What do they do? What kind of roofs do they have? I'm gonna have some handouts on education about, you can talk about skyscrapers that are actually earthquake proof. They actually put them on rollers and they shift. So you're gonna talk about certain structures that can handle the elements, you know, a hurricane coming in or a tornado. What is it about this area that can be protected against protect people from the natural disaster that's coming in? So that's what you're talking about. We've got, and how do they fit into nature? Like obviously there's a lot of cellars in the Midwest because they have the tornadoes coming. And at this time you wanna go around and collect a few little natural items because they're gonna be making an impression art. And so they wanna kind of pick some pine cones, acorns, leaves are okay. So they'll have a baggie and they'll just pick up, but they do have to be fallen items, which means it's okay to pick up and take it. You can't pick something off of a tree or off the ground. All right, then you guys are going to the cabin, okay? And this is a time when you guys are actually inside the cabin. There was a group there and they're gonna shift out and then you guys get time in here. So you're basically doing 2 crafts back to back. These girls are probably tired from being outside, so maybe they'll come in and regroup, okay? So they did have their snack, which was the trail mix. They don't get the snack that's at the snack station. That should be packed up and gone by the time they get there. So in the cabin, you guys are designing outdoor art. And so what you're gonna be doing is making a terracotta pot toad house. So you'll have a platform, probably cardboard, and they'll have a chance to paint that with like paint that's okay to be in nature. And we'll have terracotta pots, and they're gonna be cut in half. So then you lay them down like this, and they're gonna be able to decorate like a little yard inside and paint that, okay? You don't glue it down, it just kind of sits there. So then the next one is create art inspired by wildlife, and then it's make an impression. So those are 2 you're knocking out. So at this time, they're gonna be able to make a salt dough. So we'll have everything measured. They'll get to use their hands. I figured you guys do this at the very end because it gets sticky. So they'll mix the salt dough. They do get to pick a color to make it, but we'll probably have gloves on just because we don't want to get the dye on our hands. So you guys will get to color it. and then they want to make like a little cookie disc. I will have something like a template that'll measure it, maybe like a cookie cutter. And then they're gonna make it and make sure it's nice and flat and start pressing in those items that they found. So they're making this impression art. You wanna try to tell them minimal is better, because if you start overlaying everything, you really can't see the detail. So probably about 3 objects is probably okay to see, okay? And then it's gonna be placed on a paper plate and go into a baggie with their name, and there's gonna be instructions, because they do have to bake it for about 20 minutes when they get home. So there'll be a piece of paper. So there's actually stuff they gotta do at home. And then when they're done with the cookie disc, we'll have a little straw and you can poke it so that there's a hole at the top, so they'll be able to hang it. And then there will be string provided, but you don't wanna put it in yet because it still has to be baked. And then they are getting picked up at 4 o'clock right at the cabin, okay? You guys will have a list of the parents that are picking them up, and you are released at 4 o'clock, and then the taco bar should be set up by 4:15, so you get a nice little break.